A rain garden is a recessed garden that collects stormwater runoff from surrounding impervious areas such as rooftops and paved surfaces. This practice allows rainwater to infiltrate into the ground and to transpire through plants. Rain gardens reduce the financial and environmental costs of transporting stormwater through municipal systems. If a rain garden is proposed for an existing residential site as part of the RiverSmart Homes program and 50 square feet of disturbance or less is proposed, then no permit is required. Rain gardens for new construction projects where 50 square feet or more of land disturbance is proposed, a permit is required and the applicant must follow standard land development processes. Additionally, the rain garden will require an approved stormwater management, erosion and sediment plan and building permit. Participants in the RiverSmart Homes program who intend to build a rain garden must first determine the size and location of the rain garden before construction begins. Generally, rain gardens should be placed at least 10 feet from a building foundation to prevent basement flooding or saturation of the area around the building's foundation. Wet areas are not suitable and do not work well since the goal of bioretention is to infiltrate water into the ground. Wet areas are an indication of saturated soils where infiltration does not readily occur. For best results, the rain garden should be built in a sunny area. Select the most level area of the yard. Contact Miss Utility at 1-800-257-7777 to ensure that excavation will not interfere with underground utility lines. If buried utility lines are damaged, then the penalty for failing to contact Miss Utility can be up to $1,000 per offense plus the cost of utility line repairs. To determine the size of your rain garden, you must know the following: how much stormwater will be collected, how much surface area is needed to treat the anticipated amount of runoff, how deep and how wide does my rain garden need to be. Measure the square footage to determine the amount of stormwater runoff an impervious area will produce. A home that is 40 feet by 30 feet has an area of 1,200 square feet. To calculate the volume of water to be stored in a rain garden, multiply the depth of the runoff by the impervious area and divide by 12. Based on our previous calculation, the homeowner needs a garden that can hold at least 50 cubic feet or measuring 10 feet by 5 feet by 1 foot. Measured from the adjacent ground level to the top of the mulch layer, rain gardens typically range in depth from 6 inches to 1 foot. A deeper garden will contain more water, but the garden slopes are at greater risk to erode and the collected water may not infiltrate into the ground during the required 72 hours following the end of the rainstorm. For those gardens requiring a surface depth recessed greater than 1 foot below ground level, special precautions are needed to prevent slope erosion and improve drainage. The garden design includes the depth of the excavation and the depth of each layer of soil or media that is replaced into the garden bed. The garden bed generally includes 2 or 3 layers. The layers consist of a ponding area that includes a 2-inch thick hardwood mulch layer at the top, 3 feet of bioretention soil mix, and washed stone aggregates. The next steps are to design how the stormwater will flow into the rain garden and then how overflow water in heavy storms will flow out of the garden to the municipal storm drain. There are 3 basic ways to design how stormwater drains into a rain garden. Water draining from a sloped yard can drain naturally as long as there is sufficient bed of native grasses to prevent erosion and filter any sediment carried by the stormwater. Sediments will clog a rain garden. Water draining quickly from a rooftop or paved surface can be carried by either a closed pipe or an open drain. The advantage of an open drain is that if it clogs, deteriorates, or freezes, the problem will be easily observed and therefore easily repaired. An open drain can also be less expensive to install. A disadvantage is that special care must be taken to be sure that no soil or sediment enters an open drain from the surrounding landscape. The advantage of an underground pipe is that it is out of sight. Disadvantages include increased and problematic long-term maintenance concerns. Also, bacteria and larger pests may find such pipes to be a suitable habitat between rainstorms. All rain gardens need to have an overflow device. Heavy rains that exceed the capacity of the rain garden will cause flooding and erosion without a planned overflow delivery system. There are 3 basic overflow designs: an overflow bypass inlet connected to the storm drain outlet. An overflow drain sited just above the designed high water mark drains excess water down through a pipe toward a preferred release site. A spillway is the simplest system of overflow release. Special care is required to prevent erosion at the release site. An underdrain with observation wells and overflow bypass system connected to the storm sewer are required for permitted bioretention rain gardens for new construction where soil disturbance of greater than 5,000 feet is proposed. Rain gardens built through the RiverSmart Homes program will infiltrate water into the on-site soils after treatment by the rain garden soil mix has occurred. Selecting the right plant species also affects the success or failure of a rain garden. Woody and herbaceous perennial plants native to the District of Columbia are recommended. The district provides assistance in selecting native plants that can live in the unusual varying soil conditions of a rain garden and can quickly transpire groundwater up into the atmosphere. A rain garden typically has 3 planting zones. The deepest portion of the garden may hold standing water for 24 to 72 hours. Plants that can tolerate flooding and drought conditions are necessary in this zone. Plants on the slope are occasionally flooded but are not required to endure moisture extremes. Plants at the top of the garden are rarely flooded and should be drought tolerant. When a site is being developed, the rain garden area needs to be fenced off to prevent any impact from vehicles or other construction activities that may compact the soil. Additionally, erosion and sediment control devices need to seal off the garden area from stormwater runoff during the construction phase. Finally, any ditches dug or pipes installed for inflow or outflow prior to completion of the garden bed must have watertight seals to ensure water does not enter the bedding area until the garden has been approved by the inspector. To prevent damage, the rain garden should be built after all other construction has been completed or after the site has been stabilized. After sediment controls are in place, excavation may begin. Outline the area to be excavated. For homeowners, place 2 stakes on opposite sides of the garden. Tie a string to the 2 stakes just above ground level. Use a level to make sure the string is horizontal. Request expert assistance for leveling if the rain garden is proposed for a sloped yard. A berm or sloped ridge needs to be formed on the lower outside of the rain garden. The height of the berm should be no higher than the elevation of the inlet. This soil for the berm needs to be firmly compacted to avoid future erosion. Excavate with hand shovel or backhoe. Never allow any vehicle or piece of equipment to enter within the garden bed area. Measure the depth from the horizontal string along the top of the garden site to ensure the base is level. A level base is important so that water spreads evenly as it infiltrates. If water pools at one end, the garden may become less functional after many hard rains. When the garden is level and dug to the proper depth, break up the remaining soil to the desired depth. For contractors, install the observation well as required in the plan. Measure to be sure that the top is flush with the grade level. Immediately screw on the PVC scheduled 40 watertight top as soon as the pipe is installed. This top may never be removed except to inspect water levels. If the design calls for a perforated underdrain or an overflow pipe to be installed within the planting bed, install it at this time. Surround the pipe with a layer of stone aggregate. Rain gardens regulated by a district permit for new construction need an inspection by a district official at this point before installing the planting bed. If a base layer of sand is used, then add the sand and make it level with a rake. Install the stone aggregate and soil mix by hand, shovel, or backhoe. Fill the layers to within 2 inches of the intended surface elevation. Continue to use the level horizontal string as your guideline. Level the top of the bed with a rake. Mid-size rocks are placed at the outfall of the rain garden inlet. The velocity of the stormwater inflow is often very high and will create erosion within the rain garden. The rocks dissipate that force. The rocks must be large enough to stay in place against the force of the water. Install the plants, starting at the middle of the garden and working out to the berm. Plant slightly above the soil elevation as they will sink into the loose soil media when they are watered. Any trees planted in a garden need staking, as the soil is not firmly compacted for support. After the plants are in place, spread about 2 inches of composted hardwood mulch. The mulch should be aged for at least 12 months, uniform in color, and free of foreign or plant material. When complete, carefully brush the mulch away from the stalk or trunk of the plants to prevent rotting or disease to the plants. Deeply water the entire garden with a gentle spray for 14 consecutive days after planting. And now you can stand back and watch the garden grow and manage your stormwater while you enjoy its beauty. The RiverSmart Homes program provides technical advice and, in some cases, financial assistance. For more information, please call the District Department of the Environment at 202-535-2240.